Welcome to the MS Dev Show, episode number 191.
This is an episode in our special series recorded live from the Podcast Central at Build. We bring you the best guests for some of the best announcements. Raygun gives you complete visibility on errors, crashes, and performance problems affecting your end users. Replicate issues in seconds rather than digging through log files or having to rely on users to report errors or crashes. Raygun gives you a window into how users are really experiencing your software applications. Check it out today at raygun.com.
Now we're sitting down with Erin Chapple and Harry Pulapaka from the Windows team working on Windows on ARM. How's it going, you two?
Good. It's going great. It's a beautiful sunny day in Seattle.
Yeah, and I love Build, so this is pretty cool getting to talk to you guys about this because I've heard about this functionality and I actually got to try it, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. I finally got to try one of these devices here at the show, so I'm pretty excited about it. So I think where we should start is, what is this, and basically why are we investing in this?
So the work that we're doing to support Windows on ARM is part of the work we're doing around always connected PCs. Mm-hmm. And so, both of you are probably no different than the phenomenon we see today, which is that with the rise of the mobile phone, people are more and more taking their mobile phone out of the house, right? And using that. I like to say I'm the queen of editing PowerPoint on my on my phone. But that's not always the best experience, right? And as we think about just, the rise of millennial and where things are going, not only in kind of the world, but in the workforce, over half the workforce will be millennials by the 2020. Wow. This ability to take the simplicity and connectivity of your mobile phone experience and pair that with the power and creativity of your PC really unlocks a whole different set of scenarios that we think are important for consumers through commercial.
I like that too. I think that's a good way of thinking about it, right? It's like your phone turns on and off instantly.
Yeah.
You want your machine, you want your laptop to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Or your tablet or whatever.
Exactly. And that's a great lead into kind of the four characteristics that we believe make an always connected PC. One, it's always connected. It has built-in LTE, and the OS seamlessly switches between LTE and Wi-Fi to manage that for you, the user, to make sure that that's not a complicated experience. Two, amazing battery life. And on these devices, we're talking about weeks versus days of battery life or days versus hours and weeks of connected standby. Right. My personal experience, I have now twice gone on vacation with an always connected PC that is a Windows on ARM version of an always connected PC, and for a week left my battery charger at home.
I was going to say, you're probably like, I'm intentionally not taking my battery.
Exactly. And that's amazing, right? Because you now think about it, it's great to have connectivity, but if you then have to lug around your power cord, then that becomes problematic, right? And so it's great. You don't have to think about this. I can just throw it in my purse. I take it on the road with me, and I have the value that comes from being always connected and not having to worry about that battery life.
And I get so paranoid about losing my power cord. Like, I have an extra one.
Yes.
Because it's like, I'm not actually worried about losing my laptop, but if I lose that power cord, something's... you get nervous and unsettled.
I literally purchase one for every location. So no, I'm serious. So I have, for any device I ever buy, I buy an adapter for at home, for at my desk, for work at my desk, and then I usually will get one for like the living room, and then I will get one that's dedicated for travel. Yeah. So I usually have 4. I think for the Surface, I think I have 6.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
I think I have a problem.
So what you need is a Windows 10 on ARM device.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Hey, there's one actually really interesting anecdote from our user research that we did. We actually had one participant who, one of the newfound benefits of their Windows 10 on ARM device that they found was actually using it to charge their phone. And you think about it, that if you can get a PC to a place where it has a battery life that you are not worried about, that you use it in between to charge your phone when you're on your go, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. Yeah.
That is great.
So, and then just the last two pieces of this what an always connected PC is. Mm-hmm. So always connected, built-in, great, amazing battery life. And then it's just the Windows 10 that you know and love, right? It supports all the features, inking, Cortana, Hello, security. And it does that on a form factor that is conducive to this mobile on-the-go workplace.
So all that sounds really great, and it sounds too good to be true. Like, what's the catch? What are we giving up to get that amazing battery life and, the experience that we've always had and that connectivity?
I think that we've focused a lot in the first wave of these devices on creating a great experience, starting with the device in S mode. So the devices, the Windows 10 on ARM devices start in S mode, and we've really focused on making sure you don't have to, do a lot of that trade-off in thinking, right? So we've natively recompiled the operating system so that it runs at native performance. We've really focused on then porting things with the new April 2018 update. We've done things like Edge, is now natively ARM64 on the device. And we've focused on our experience of providing applications through the store and making sure that those are available and that we've performance tuned those applications. Now, with any device, right, whereas we're porting to a new architecture, there are going to be some places where, as of today, we don't support those applications, but we're trying to make those kind of minimize those places where the user has to think about it. And that's probably a great way to turn to Hari and let him talk about what we're doing with our emulation layer as a way to kind of expand the reach, namely in the app category of compatibility.
So when we first did this, right, so what we did is we looked at our telemetry to see what apps people use. And we found that the vast majority of the apps have x86 32-bit versions. And so that's why we built an emulation layer for the x86 apps, so that on day 0, you can use most of the apps that you're used to.
Yep. Right? And if I have something from 10 years ago that is a Win32 app, it will run on there.
It just works, right?
Yep.
One of the demos I did is actually I installed GVim. Now, I don't know if you guys use GVim or not, but GVim is a pretty popular text editor, right? Like, people love it. It's not fancy, but it's written many, many years ago, right? It's the number one editor on Unix, and it just worked. So I just installed it, download, boom, it just works.
That's very cool.
Like you said, a lot of those older apps, those are 32-bit only.
Right.
A lot of them, as they migrated to 64, they have both 32 and 64 support. And so in my head, just in the last 30 seconds, trying to figure out what would really not run, I'm the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is something like Photoshop.
Right.
So, and that's not something that I really use, and there's really good alternatives for something light and on the go.
Well, and we're talking about the 64-bit Photoshop, right?
Exactly.
Well, it only comes in 64-bit now. Okay. So they don't have a 32-bit unless you go back to 3-4 years ago.
And then you have games. You can think of AAA games, right? Like you got the big Halo, Gears of War. You got those kinds of games.
Okay.
And so I think you bring up a really important point, which is, one of the challenges when you introduce kind of a new category or a new capability of device is that people look at it and bring their expectations of what a PC is into this environment.
Yeah.
And so if somebody comes in with the expectations that this is just a PC and it works in all the places that a PC works, that's probably not the right kind of expectation to have of the device. So, as Hari talks about high-end gaming, if I'm a person who's doing high-end video editing, photo editing, and I largely do that within my office or within my home, right? The value of the device is not really going to sing. But what we see is when customers really use it in the way that it's intended, which is I'm on the go, all right? Maybe I'm a personal chef that's roaming around the city, working in different clients, over the course of the day. Maybe I'm a real estate agent that's on the go. Maybe I'm a freelance writer, right? And I want to be able to be productive while I'm on the go. Then the value that comes with that battery life and connectivity, and the fact that the applications that I typically use on a regular basis work on the device, that provides me with this additional value.
Yeah,
and that's where we see the device really delighting the customers.
Yeah, because here's how I thought about it. If you look at the original Surface, which was ARM, or if you look at the iPad, it's interesting. You see people that they go through this exercise maybe I can replace my computer with this. And it usually ends in a lot of frustration because you get to this last layer where, on my original Surface, I was on vacation with it and I think I needed to print something to PDF and it just didn't have that functionality. It was super frustrating. And you're boxed in because if it's not this super basic feature that they provide out of the box, you were just done. And so whenever this feature got announced, or basically this partnership with Qualcomm and this whole Windows on ARM functionality, I was super excited about it, and I still am super excited about it because to me, it's this ability to have that experience that people want, like you said, with the battery that lasts forever and all these other things. I can do like my content consumption, and I'm barely using any power. I can watch movies and do all that kind of stuff. I can take it on a plane. And then if I'm on vacation and I get a call like, hey, Jason, like we have this bug, you're the only one that can fix this, then I could open up like something like Visual Studio, right? Like I can do that. And at that point, I don't even care. Maybe it does use a little bit more battery or whatever. But like the fact that I can do that is something that you just can't do on these other devices. Exactly. So to me, like this just makes a ton of sense. It's great at 99% of the things it does. And the other 1%, at least it has the capability of doing those. So that's why I was excited. The key thing, though,
to keep in mind is with Build, we are announcing the ARM64 SDK Preview. So what that means is you can actually take your Photoshop and recompile to ARM64 if you do want it. So if Adobe wants, they can take the SDK, they can recompile Photoshop for ARM64.
That's very cool.
So the idea with the emulation is it's a day zero problem, right? You bought this device on day zero. I need my Java from 1990.
Yeah.
Right? And you actually just already answered the next question I was going to ask, because as a UWP developer, you're used to those drop downs, and you're already building ARM is in there, and then you have x86 and x64. But for classic apps, you only saw x86 and x64. So now you're saying that there's another toolkit that I can install, which will give me the ability to target ARM.
ARM64.
ARM64, and
it's just Visual Studio, by the way. It's just part of Visual Studio.
I've heard of this tool.
And that's in the 15.7.
15.8 Preview 1.
Okay, 15.8 Preview 1. If you want that, that's what we have to look for. Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's really cool.
And so I think you see that we focused on really understanding who the first set of customers are, creating that experience, and then, those edges that you might run into, we're continuing to smooth those out.
Yeah.
And so, on day zero, really, with our emulation app, the piece of feedback we've gotten is that there is a growing amount of 64-bit only applications that exist out there, or applications that have drivers, right, that you need, and that's not something that we emulate today. And yet in those cases, what you really want is you want the app to be natively recompiled, so it runs natively on the device. And we've now, with the Preview SDK, opened up that option for our developer community.
We probably should talk about performance, because I sort of mentioned it before. Like, there's this perception that there's this performance hit. I mean, because anytime you're talking emulation, there's going to be a hit. So the question is how much. And I've heard, but I didn't hear anything very conclusive that Chrome was slower. So I actually went over, and I saw one of these machines, and the first thing I did, somebody had actually already installed Chrome on it. I started using Chrome, and Carl was there with me, and I started navigating between different websites. I was really trying to push Chrome.
You were pushing the 3D WebGL.
I even went to Babylon JS, and I was doing 3D stuff.
And you're
what are people talking about?
Anybody who doesn't know Jason, he's really great. If somebody's going to break an application in 30 seconds, it's him.
Yeah.
And he was going to those ones that were doing the in the browser 3D effects and spinning the models and going to the maps and zooming and tilting and doing all that stuff as fast as he could. And it kept up amazing.
It was fine. It was good.
So the thing to keep in mind, the reason it kept up, emulation, if you think about it, we are emulating user mode apps. Mm-hmm. We are only emulating your user mode CPU code. But when you're writing to the GPU, you're writing to the network, you're writing to the disk. All goes into the kernel mode.
So it's not as big of a hit as you might think.
Where the drivers take over and they run natively. So when you're doing your GPU 3D thing, all of that goes to the kernel mode. The GPU is writing it to the screen. So that's all native ARM.
Yeah.
Right? So that's actually another really good tip for developers. When you're already doing that, that doesn't affect these in that mode.
Right.
So what about the Windows subsystem for Linux, or the bash support?
Well, it's just a PC, so you'd expect Windows and Bash to work on this. And so we've been working with Canonical over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And so Canonical is almost ready to submit the ARM64 version of Ubuntu to the store. Indeed.
That is so cool.
And today, as part of our build session, we will be demoing it for the very first time, and we'll show ARM64 Bash running on Windows.
So we're talking about it before it's announced, but by the time people hear the show, it would have already been announced, so it won't be as exciting.
So it'll be a store app, and you can just go to the store and download it just like you do today.
That is super cool, because I know that was one of the things that people are like, oh, well, that's kind of unfortunate that it's not there. So that's really cool that it's there. But it'll be ARM Linux then?
Yes, so it'll be ARM64 Ubuntu.
That's very interesting. That could actually be useful for IoT development.
Oh, yeah, that is really a good idea. Yeah. It would be probably like a halfway step to like do testing for like when you're doing container work on Linux and
yeah. Actually, it would really for IoT development overall. I think it would actually probably be a pretty good machine for that. So that's pretty exciting.
You were talking about like some of the characteristics of these PCs as a whole, just being a lot more pleasant to use battery. One of the things I've heard about them, and I just kind of wanted to call out, asking if it is a characteristic across the board or just some of them, is because they're ARM and have lower heat profiles that many of them are fanless. Yeah. Are they all like that? Because like my prime example is I have a Surface Book in front of me right now, and if I open Slack and Teams at the same time, this thing turns into a jet engine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the benefits of the partnership that we have in working with Qualcomm is just the experience that they have in the chip and power and performance of that chip, and specifically power management, right? And so they are fanless designs. It's interesting because they have, I think, experience in the size of the board as well, and its ability to dissipate heat in the device, right, which can help you in making the devices thinner.
And then lighter as well, right?
And lighter as well. And then, that also contributes to the amazing battery life that you get, right? And the interesting thing, which we haven't talked about, which is my favorite feature of the Windows 10 on our device I have, is its instant on capability. Yes. I literally open the keyboard. Mine is a detachable. I flip open the keyboard, and it seems like hello authenticates me, and I'm at the desktop before the keyboards actually even hit the desk.
It says hello before you can.
Exactly.
Well, that was one thing that was always frustrating in the past, because like many years ago, like Windows just took forever to recover from standby, and then they did like a ton of work, and they're like, yes, it's like instant, and it's like, no, it's not.
No.
And you and I, we actually talked about it a couple years ago. I was like, you know what I really want? I wanted kind of a device that I could kind of throw around the house, right? Where you like push the button, it would instantly be like, hey, I want to look something up real quick. Push the button, and then I put it away. Kind of like a phone with a big screen, and it's awesome to actually see that like that's coming to fruition.
Well, and it's you don't realize all the ways in which you kind of adapt to the technology around you. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that you want the technology to fit into your life in a more seamless way. And so, I mean, think about walking around the office. How many people do you see lugging around a big power cord with their laptop open? Because they don't want it to go to sleep, right? Because when they then
just coming here, like right before we did this, I was like, across the hall over there, and it was plugged in, and I just like unplugged it, carrying like everything kind of still connected together.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot less open laptops in our buildings, because I don't even think about like closing it, throwing it in my purse, and going to the next meeting. I know that it's going to instantly resume.
That's cool.
And that really helps us as well with the longevity of the battery life.
Yeah.
Raygun provides full-stack error, crash, and performance monitoring for tech teams. Whether you're a software engineer looking to diagnose and resolve issues with greater speed and accuracy, a product manager drowning in bug reports, or you're just concerned you're losing customers to poor quality online experiences, Raygun can provide you with the answers. Get full-stack error and performance monitoring in one place. The next time you're struggling to replicate errors and performance issues in your codebase, think Raygun. Head over to raygun.com, get up and running within minutes, and dramatically improve the online experiences of your users.
How many models are there? I mean, like, how do I buy these? Like, how many are there?
We have announced the partnerships with 3 OEMs that are in the initial wave of devices. So Lenovo, Asus, and HP.
Okay.
And those devices, the Asus and HP are available today, depending upon what market you're in. Right, they're kind of rolling out in different markets across and Lenovo will come later in the upcoming kind of months here.
Yeah.
And so I'd encourage folks, if you think that this aligns with some of the challenges that you face in your PC experience today, to go take a spin.
This would be great for like students.
Yeah.
And for this, I mean, my wife would
anybody who travels a lot.
Yeah. Anybody who travels, very cool.
So what kind of price points are these initial ones hitting at?
There's a range of price points in the devices, and that's really set by the OEM and the design.
Like just these initial ones. I'm curious, what like the 2 that are out on market, like, I mean, roughly.
The HP device that exists today is roughly, I think the list price is $999.
$999.
Awesome. And the Asus device
starts at $599.
It's $599 for 4 gigs of RAM, and then there's a 8 gig RAM model as well.
Okay.
So that sounds like pretty much in line with what's out there, plus you get all these other great benefits.
Yes.
I think the LTE is the big key difference that you don't get at similar price models, right? Okay. For me personally, for example, my machine, I have a SIM card in there, and I don't even know the password for any of the Wi-Fi connection spots because I don't need it. I just open my laptop and I start. Right,
that's cool. And you always get that then? Because it's
they're part and parcel of the process.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Because normally that's like, sometimes it's like a $500 option.
Exactly. It's an extra add-on option that you pay more money to get the LTE SIM. In this case, it's already built into the base price.
Okay, that's super cool. And then, sort of the theme that we're talking about, like, what's the general theme about like what you want to do in the future? Like, what's the roadmap for this?
So I think we started off in, the consumer, what we consider prosumer space, right? Yeah. Targeting students, as you say, or mobile professionals that are on the go, right? That's kind of the first, wave of devices are targeted in that space. But, it's really interesting to look in the future at commercial as a really compelling opportunity to move into. If you think about just the investment that's happening today in 5G with the mobile operators carriers around the world, and you look at what enterprises are concerned about, they're concerned about cost, security, management, simplicity.
Yeah.
And so today, much like they already are moving to offload compute, offload storage to the cloud, it's very compelling to think about offloading network to the cloud.
Right.
And then as an IT shop, I don't have to worry about managing the infrastructure of my Wi-Fi networks, making sure they're up to date, they're secure. I don't have to worry about my employees as they travel, right? Public Wi-Fi spots are a very a vector right around malware and kind of attack.
I honestly just don't use them anymore.
Yeah. And so as you think about it, today one of the challenges is that for an IT shop to really think about delivering a cellular PC or an always connected PC, it's quite complicated, right? You've got to go order the physical SIMs from your carrier. You've got to order the devices. You've got to somehow trust your users to do the configuration. You can't really set policy on that device because, I know we're all like, trustworthy people in here, but, Jason, you could like take out your SIM card and give it to your friend. And so I'm concerned, right, about cost and all of that. And so as we also think about the rise of eSIM technology, right? And the ability to be able to, configure automatically a device that's provisioned with an eSIM profile and then be able to set policy on that through a mobile device management solution. You create a really compelling, a story for the enterprise around creating this experience back to, more than half of the workforce being millennials by the year 2020, their expectations of the organization is that they're going to provide me a modern experience and a mobile experience and for me to be able to unlock the creativity. And so that really kind of, gives them the ability to give their employees what their employees are looking for in a way that is cost effective and secure and manageable from their point of view. And
that's an awesome view of the future because, when my kids were younger, it was funny because like we'd leave the house and they're like, Dad, like why is the internet not working? Like they didn't get it. Like they just thought the internet was just this thing that existed that just like was there. And then when we left the house, it was just like, whoa, I'm in the scary world where the internet doesn't exist. And now what I'm hearing, I mean, it seems like in 5, maybe 10, like with 5G and these other things, like it seems like that whole thing, like everybody can start to be like that. Like I thought the internet was just this thing that existed because I just take my machine everywhere and like stuff just works. I pay a monthly fee and I don't know what's going on, but it's there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Air, water, and connectivity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Is there anything else that we missed that we should talk about?
I think, maybe one thing I would just say is that, given this is a developer audience, I'd really encourage the developer community to take a look at the device and not only from the point of view of the applications you have today and how do you, it's amazing. We have the ARM32, right, drop down in the UWP store submittal, but it's amazing how many people don't check that, right? And it's, it's easy, right? And that you can take your application.
Or that they try to over micromanage it and like, well, I can't imagine anybody needing that, so I'm going to uncheck that, remove that from my bundle.
Exactly. And you're limiting, right, your total addressable market in terms of who the app can be available to. And so I would say, first and foremost, take a look at the device. It's a surface area. There, depending upon the application that you have, you could, if you have an x86 application today, kind of make it available on the device. Maybe if it's a UWP app, make sure that you're submitting the ARM32 version. If it's something that you are interested in, performance or some reason or whatnot, where you're 64-bit only, take a look at the SDK. And then not only look at what you are doing today, but also think about where the direction of these devices are going and say, how can you think about that to your advantage in the applications that you are developing? And how could the fact that somebody has an always connected PC that is on the go, that has this battery life, what could that do as you think about the value you're providing in the applications you're authoring?
That's a great point.
For me, if I think about this device like an ideal app, imagine Pokemon Go on this. You have LTE, you have a big battery life,
yeah.
You have widescreen, the AR experience on this would be so awesome.
Yeah. Is there a version of VS Code that works on ARM? I mean, I'm sure it would work on the emulation layer, but is there an ARM version? I mean, I don't know if anybody here knows that.
No. So VS Code uses something called Electron.
Yeah.
So that's a Chromium-based product. So that I don't believe has an ARM64 version for Windows yet.
Interesting. Okay.
But like I said, we had the SDK.
Yeah.
Nothing is preventing anybody from actually.
Yeah, and I can still run VS Code on it. Like, exactly. I understand that. So, okay, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so where can people...
So let me just reinforce Erin's point.
Sure.
So today is the second day of build. Yesterday was the first day of build. Yep. We had a member of one of the build attendees. He had come over to our booth. He was trying out his app on our device, and he had only submitted an x86 version of his app. And so he installed the app, and he was like, oh, this is not that smooth.
Yeah.
I do feel a little bit of a lag here. So he goes back home. He comes today morning. He's one of the first guys in. And he's like, here, he gives us a USB key, and he's like, here, I recompiled my app for ARM. I want to try it out right now. And he tried it, and instant, like, smooth, no difference. So we asked him, how much effort did it take? He's like, 10 minutes. All I did, I opened Visual Studio, pulled up my project, created an ARM package,
and it worked the first
it.
time. Like, obviously, it was something easy.
Right, that worked the first time. Clearly, he had no device with him, right? He went home.
Right.
He came today morning, and he's like,
that's a long
boom.
debug cycle.
And so I think to reinforce the point, it's universal, right? UWP stands for universal.
Yeah.
So just recompile your app to ARM, submit an ARM package, and we expect all of them to just work.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Okay, so Hari, where can people find you?
So I'll be in the Windows 10 or ARM booth on the convention floor.
Okay.
We also have a session today for Windows 10 or ARM for developers where we'll go in depth into the SDK. We'll have some demos.
And that should be available online too, I would guess.
That should be available online.
And then are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter.
Okay.
My Twitter handle is TheRealHariP.
Awesome. And what about you, Erin?
I'm on Twitter as well. I'm at Erin Chapple.
Very cool. Carl?
I'm on Twitter at Carl Schweitzer.
And I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/ytechie. So Erin and Hari, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about this, because this is definitely something I had some questions around, and I just think this is really cool. So I suspect one of these devices will be in my house very soon. So thank you so much.
Very cool. Thank you so much for having us.